from where you can get the documents and all. So we'll be taking a look at that. But before we get into that, so the very first topic that we'll be seeing it is central motor vehicle regulations, right? So those of you who are already from the automobile industry or who have worked in automobile industry might be familiar with this term, central motor vehicle regulations, right? So for those who don't know, so central motor vehicle regulations is actually a set of laws and regulations to govern the whole vehicles, to govern the vehicles running in the street, on the road, right? So it includes the regulations regarding various things. So the lineage of this regulation goes up in 1914. So in 1914, India had the very first motor vehicle regulation act, right? Implemented by the Britishers, right? Just a minute. Yeah. So in 1914, Britishers implied the very first Motor Vehicle Regulations Act in India, right? And since then, from time to time, this act was being updated, right, and refined from time to time. So it was between 1914 to 1989. It was refined up to 7 or 8 times, right? But in 1989, Ministry of Road Transportations and Highways, North, as in automobile industry we like to call them, right? So the MORTH, or the Ministry of Road Transportation and Highways, so they came up with a new set of regulations for the whole motor vehicles, right? So and they named it as Central Motor Vehicle Regulations. So that is why in so like mostly you will find it written as Central Motor Vehicle Regulations 1989. You will find the term 1989 behind Central Motor Vehicle Regulations, and in short, it is also known as CMVR. Right. So, what is CMVR? So, CMVR is, or the Central Motor Vehicle Regulation 1989, is the set of bylaws or guides produced by the Ministry of Road Transportation and Highways, and the CMVR will consist of these 6 major points. So it will consist of the laws and regulations regarding construction and maintenance of motor vehicles, vehicle safety, the environmental impact, licensing, right? All the licensing procedures and all that also you can find in CMVR, right? Registration of the vehicle, and administrative and legal requirements. So these 6 are the major points that can be found in CMVR, right? So CMVR consists of rules and regulations regarding these six segments, right? So licensing, registration, administrative and legal requirements, environment, safety, and construction and maintenance of motor vehicles. Right. Now, just to show you, so CMVR can be easily obtained, right? So I'll just second. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Right. So if you go to your browser and if you type CMVR, right? You just type CMVR. So the very first link that you get is from the Ministry of Road Transportation and Highways, right? So over here you can find the PDF of the whole book divided into the chapters, right? So chapter 1, 2, 3, 4. So all these chapters, according to the chapter, you can find the PDF of the whole book, right? In parts, or else you can just you can so if you type CMVR buy, or if you type something like that, so you can get this book easily on the Amazon also, right? So 2020 edition, like for 400 rupees you can get the 2020 edition, like the last year's edition of CMVR. Okay, right? So you can get it on Amazon also, right, if you want to buy the book, right? So this is actually just yeah, sorry. Okay, so yeah, so this book is, yeah, so this book can be bought from the Amazon, right? Or the PDF can be taken from the CM like Morth website of Morth, right? So you can get this book easily, right? It is not like something like a hidden gem or something or something only automobile industry has. So you can get the access to this book easily, right? So coming back to the slide. Okay. So CMVR, or the Central Motor Vehicle Regulation, right? So in that we have these six topics, or we have rules and regulations regarding these six topics, which is mentioned over there, right? Now, in order to keep these topics and everything, like all these rules and regulations updated, or to refine these rules and regulations, we have CMVR Technical Standing Committee, or TSC, right? We have CMVR TSC, or Technical Standing Committee. So CMVR TSC consists of members from four different segments: government bodies, industry representative, testing agencies, and state representative, right? So from all these four segments, you will find members. So from government bodies, you will find Ministry of Heavy and Public Enterprises. So if you like, for those who don't know, Ministry of Heavy and Public Enterprises are also the one who is leading FAME scheme along with the yeah, they are the ones leading the FAME scheme along with Niti Aayog, right? So Ministry of Heavy and Public Enterprises are there. Then we have Ministry of Road Transportation and Highways, MORTH. So though for them, we already know that they are the ones uh, then making rules and regulations regarding the whole road transportation, highways, and all. So CMVR is basically the product of MORTH. So CMVR is the one is made by MORTH. And in the technical standing committee from government bodies, we have Heavy and Public Enterprises, so and Road Transportation and Highways, and Bureau of Indian Standards, right? So these three are from the government bodies. From testing agencies, we have ICAT, International Center for Automotive Technology. ICAT is situated in Manesar, okay, Manesar near Gurgaon, right? So ICAT is there. They perform the testing of the vehicles. So most of the vehicles which are electric rickshaws, not vehicles, most of the electric rickshaws that you see, which are running on the streets of Delhi NCR. So you can see the label of ICAT behind that, right? So they are approved from the ICAT. Okay. Then we have ARAI, Automotive Research Association of India, which is in Pune, right? So ARAI will be approving almost all the vehicles, right? So almost all the commercial vehicles in the sense the passenger segment, trucks, and all these vehicles will be approved by ARAI. Then we have VRDE, Vehicle Research and Development Establishment. So it is in Ahmednagar, right, Maharashtra. So VRDE will perform testing and regulations of defense vehicles. And then we have Central Institute of Road Transport, CERT. So we have these four testing agencies, right, which are part of CMVR Technical Standing Committee. Then we have industry representative. From industry, we have Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers, SIAM. So it consists of all the manufacturers coming together, like Mahindra, Tata, Kia, Hyundai, all the major manufacturers, the tier one OEMs, right? Then we have Automotive Component Manufacturer Association, right? So these are tier two and tier three vendors of automobile companies. So ACMA, their association is ACMA, Component Manufacturers Association. And then we have Tractor Manufacturer Association. So again, for agricultural products, we have Tractor Manufacturer Association. So in industry representative, we have these three. And then we have state representatives from each state, because each state will also have their own bylaws regarding the motor vehicle regulations, right? So we will have them. So all in all, CMVR will consist of these four bodies, right? So government bodies, industry representative, testing agency, and state representative, right? So these four will be present in CMVR Technical Standing Committee. Right? Then comes Automotive Industry Standard Committee, right? So now see, CMVR, we saw CMVR consists of all the laws and bylaws regarding to motor vehicle regulations, right? and CMVR TSC is taking care of that. Right? But in order, but in substituent to that, we have AIS committee or AISC, Automotive Industry Standard Committee. Now, the job of this committee is you can see over here, preparation of new standards for automotive items, right? So you can see preparation of new standards for automotive items related to safety. Then review and recommend amendments to the existing standards, right? Then recommend adoption of such standard to CMVR Technical Standing Committee. So they will prepare new laws if required. They will review and recommend amendments to existing laws, and then you will have adoption of standards to CMVR Technical Standing Committee, right? So then they will suggest those adoptions to CMVR TSC, right? Then recommend commissioning of testing. So apart from that, they also recommend commissioning of testing facilities, right? Then funding for facilities, for testing facilities, are approved by AISC, right? Right. Then we have advised CMVR TSC on any other issues referred to it, right? So these 6 are the major roles of Automotive Industry Standard Committee, AISC, right? So basically now how this works is, if there is any change that needs to be made into the law or regulation, so AISC will find that out, write the bylaws, draft the bylaws, and it will submit to CMVR Technical Committee, TSC. Then CMVR TSC will take a look at it. If there is any change, it will send it back to AIS and ask them for the changes, or else it will approve and it will provide it to MORTH, Ministry of Road and Transportation Highways, for updation, and they will update it in the CMVR, or they will pass it as a separate guidelines known as AIS standards. So CMVR will consist of standards and everything, rules and regulations, right? And apart from that, we have AIS also. AIS is Automotive Industry Standards, right? So AIS documents will consist of the testing procedures, the passing criteria, and all regarding to those rules and regulations. So for example, in emission standards, okay, if I talk about BIS 4, so BIS 4 is a part of CMVR, right? Or BIS 6 is a part of CMVR, but the passing criteria, the testing procedures, all of this will be written under AIS. Okay, so it is in this way, right? So that is how it works. So the central regulation is in the law is in CMVR. The executive part of the law, like what are the components that are required to execute those regulation, and what are the testing and passing criteria for those components, that is written under AIS documents, right? So we have CMVR, we have AIS. These 2 documents are there, right? So AISC committee will draft, provide to TSC, CMVR TSC will approve and give it to MORTH. MORTH will do the changes in CMVR, and the testing procedures will be released as in the form of revised or a new AIS document, right? So this is how it will work, right? Now, before we get into what are the rules and regulations that are relevant to electric vehicles, so before we get into that, let's take a look at the vehicle categories. Because see, I have added this topic because I have seen that most of the persons that I have ever talked to, so most of them like if I ask about vehicle categories, they are always like, we have coupe, we have sedan, SUV, and all like these, right? But that is not the vehicle categories that we have under the bylaws, right? So under the bylaws, the vehicle categorization is, so first of all, we have L, M, N, O, and T. Okay, so these 5 are the basic categories that we have. So under the very first is L category, right? So under L we have L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, L6, and L7, right? So as you can see from the table, L1 is light 2-wheeled vehicle. Okay, so you can take moped and powered cycles, battery powered cycles or moped, right? So or any vehicle which is like for vehicle which is below 25 kmph, or using motor below in the range of 250 to 1 kilowatt, that is powered cycles. Moped will be less than 4 kilowatt of motor, or speed less than equal to 45 kmph, right? Again, but three wheel moped will be L2. L3 will be less than or equal to 11 kilowatt, right? And the speed will be more than or equal to 45 kilowatt. So Ather will come under L3, right? Most of the Hero Electric products come under L1, right? Ather comes under L3, Revolt comes under L3, right? So that is there. Okay. So then we have L4, which is with sidecar. L5 is tricycle. L6 is light quadricycle, right? Then heavy quadricycle, or you can say normal cars, will come under L7. Normal car, but less for weight less than 450 kg, will come under L7, right? So this is L category vehicles. So we have 7 subcategories into that, right? Now in that also, when it comes to electric vehicle, we have a special term that is most oftenly used, which is battery powered vehicle, and the other term is electric powertrain vehicle. So can any one of you give me the difference between the battery powered vehicle and electric powertrain vehicle? What would be the difference between them? Sorry, battery operated vehicle it is. And we have
Sir, in battery powered vehicle, only the electric circuit is there. Okay, motors are there, but for rest of this, that IC engine may be there, like the hybrid electric vehicle and plug-in vehicle.
okay. Okay. Then what about electric powertrain vehicle?
Uh, in battery, that electricity only supplied by the battery, but electric, there may be another source that can replace the battery.
Okay. So for the ease of understanding, first of all, battery operated vehicle are the vehicles which is under L1 category. Okay. So the electric vehicle, okay, electric vehicle which is under L1 category, right, are known as battery operated vehicle because their speed is too low, right? They have low speed of less than 25 kmph, right? As well as in those, the batteries are smaller in size, so the batteries can be taken out and charged separately, right? So, but the major definition of battery operated vehicle, or major difference between battery operated vehicle and electric powertrain vehicle, is on the terms of power. Like battery operated vehicle will are like the L1 category of the vehicles are battery operated vehicle, and more than that, L2, L3, L4. So they are sorry, L1 and L2. L1 and L2 are battery operated vehicles, and L3 and above are electric powertrain vehicles. Okay. So is this clear? So why I'm mentioning this is because when we will further down, when we will take a look at the regulations, right? So in there, so is there any, no, components will remain same. It is only on the basis of the category. So L1, L2 will be battery operated vehicle because it is moving at a very at slower speeds. Okay. And the electric powertrain vehicle will have a somewhat powerful motor, and they are have the capability of going much higher speed. So that is why they are electric powertrain vehicle. And one more thing, for the vehicles which are below 25 kmph, they don't require any certification. Okay. Vehicles below 25 kmph, they don't require any certifications, although the battery needs to be tested. So if you are having a product less than 25 kmph, you need to get the battery pack tested. You don't have to get the whole vehicle tested. Okay. So that is also one of the regulations. Speed less than 45 kmph. No, that is the maximum speed of the vehicle, Divyendu. It's not Indian drive cycle. That is optional. In case of electric powertrain vehicle, it is optional. Like if you want, you can like Revolt 400 has this capability, and Gogoro in their electric vehicle, electric scooter has given this capability. Although Gogoro is establishing swappable battery system itself, so that is a different case in all. But yes, Gogoro and RV 400 gives this option to you, that you can take the battery out and charge it separately. Okay. So that is there, right? And yeah, so for vehicles less than 25 kmph, you don't need to go for the testing of the whole vehicle, although you would have to get battery pack tested. Okay. So that is there. So this is about the L category. Right. Then apart from that, we have buses and coaches under M category. So we have M category of vehicle, M2, M3, right, which will consist of buses and coaches, right. Then we have goods vehicle, or the trucks, or the commercial vehicles, as we say. So that will have N category. And then we have special purpose road vehicles. So that will be S category, or M2, M3, and N1. S category, under that we have M2, M3, and N1, N3. Right. Right. So these are the different categories. So under buses, you have M2, which is more than 8 passengers, and having a total weight not exceeding 5 tons. So M2, M3 is buses actually, and M1 is car, right? M1 is normal passenger car, comes under M1, right? And M2, M3 is buses, right? So from M2 will be traveler, M3 will be a mini bus, and then M3 will be M3 1 to 3, that will be a bigger bus, right? So that is there. Then N1, again, N1 will be uh, Mahindra Max or something like that. Then N2. So from the image itself, you can get the idea of what these vehicle categories will be, right? So majorly we have three categories: L category, M category, N category. Then we have S category, which is special purpose vehicle. Apart from this, if you are making an agricultural product, right, if your vehicle is an agricultural product to be used on farmlands, so that will come under T category. Okay. So that is T category for tractors and farmland vehicles. So there you have T category. And you have O category for trailers. Okay. So these are the vehicle categories that we have. And all of these categories are taken directly from the Euro norms. Okay. So almost if you when you start studying, like I have studied Euro norms and CMV AIS regulations both. So like you can see the most of, like, from dot to dot, and the images also, right? Even the images are taken from Euro norms. Okay. Illustrations and all. So like it is exact replica. Indian codes are exact replica of the Euro norms, right? So if you know Euro norms, then most probably you know the Indian norms also. So that is that. Then coming to the major portion of the regulations that you need to understand. Now, before getting into regulation, like before studying about the regulations and all, so this is another thing that you need to understand, which is drive cycles. Okay, drive cycle is another thing that you need to understand. Right? So drive cycle is basically okay, do we need to know these standards to become successful designer? Actually, not all the standards, but at least the standards relevant to your field. So example, let's see, designers are of different kind. One is aesthetic designer, or the exterior designer, you say, or the one who does the concept designing. They don't have to know all the norms. They just need to be familiar with CMVR to some extent. Steering system. Okay, so in steering system and all, not as much. Like there is not that much of regulations. Most of the regulations are in persistence to braking. Then braking also doesn't include that much. Most of them are in persistence to powertrain, basically engine, motor, gearbox, chassis. So if you're working in these segments, so yes, you would have to know a lot of, like, you'll have to have the understanding of almost everything, especially if you are in chassis. You would have to have the understanding of especially all the norms, right? Because you have to integrate all the components together. So yeah. Okay. Right. So coming to drive cycles, hmm. So what are drive cycles? So first of all, the very first question is, for those who know, you know what drive cycles are, but for those who don't, what are drive cycles? So basically, drive cycles are a set of operational cycle that we have designed in order to simulate the real world operational conditions of the vehicle inside a lab, so that we can determine the efficiency, the emissions, or the range and everything. All these things are calculated not by on driving on road, but by driving the vehicle on the test bench, right? So for that we have two different test benches. We have chassis dynamometer and a bench dynamometer. So bench dynamometer is usually for uh, just a second. Just a second, give me a second. So we have chassis dynamometer and bench dynamometer. So bench dynamometer is majorly for motor and engine, right? So if you are going to test the motor, or if you are going to test the engine, so you will be using bench dynamometer, right? And if you are testing the whole vehicle, then you will be using chassis dynamometer. Okay, right? So now in either of the cases, in order to simulate the whole, so when you are running the vehicle on chassis dynamometer, so in order to simulate the performance of the whole vehicle, so we have a work cycle defined, so which we call as drive cycle, to simulate the real world conditions. Now in India, when it comes to India, we have three drive cycles. We have Indian driving cycle, we have modified Indian driving cycle, and then we have Delhi driving cycle. So these three cycles are there. Okay, now for Indian driving cycle is applied moreover to, yeah, okay. So if I talk about Indian driving cycle is applied to L category vehicles. Okay, for L category vehicles, right? So Indian driving cycle is applicable to L category vehicles according to the regulations, right? For if you are going for testing of range and all, so L category will be subjected to Indian driving cycle, right? Then if you are so modified Indian driving cycle is subjected to is applied to M1, M2 and N1 category, right? M1, M2 and N1 category, so is subjected to modified Indian driving cycle. And rest all, right? So all the heavy buses, right? So all which includes M3 and 2 and 3, right? So all these vehicles are subjected to Delhi driving cycle. Okay, so these three are the driving cycles that we have, right? In case of India, right? So in India, we have these three driving cycles: Indian driving cycle, modified Indian driving cycle, and Delhi driving cycle. Now, Indian driving cycle is the traditional driving cycle that we used to have, right? So it has a very rapid acceleration, deceleration, and there is no holding point is there. So we have rapid acceleration, deceleration is there, right? And it is very short cycle. The cycle is very short, right? So that is why this cycle has been uh, limited to L category now. Earlier it was applied to all kinds of vehicles, but now it is limited to L category. And this Indian driving cycle has been further modified to form a modified Indian driving cycle. Now what I will do is to give you a basic idea of how this driving cycle is and how do we interpret this cycle in case of EV. I will just show you a document of the MIDC so that you get a better idea of how we do it. So just a second. Hmm. So is this document visible? Right. Hmm. So, okay. So, okay. So, modified Indian driving cycle, as I mentioned, is has been modified to accommodate more accurate driving cycle for the Indian customer or for on the Indian road, right? Now, for this cycle, if I will show you just a second, I will keep it like this only, so that it's easy for me to. Okay. So this cycle is basically on two parts. Okay. So as you can see over here, it is written modified Indian driving cycle part one, right? So this cycle is in two parts, part one and part two. Part one is for city traffic, part two is for highway. Okay. So part one is to simulate city traffic and part two is to simulate the highway conditions. Okay. And so in this, or although this, because the IC engine have been used for the whole, like for almost a century now. So this has been made in terms of IC engine, right? So you can see the whole cycle is defined in this way. So you have number of operations, then you have operations. So the first one is idling, right? And operation time duration is 11 seconds. So idling for 11 seconds, right? So this is 11-second idling. Then you have acceleration of 0 to 15 in 4 seconds. So your vehicle has to then accelerate from 0 to 15 kmph in 4 seconds, right? And the total time will be 15 seconds. Right? Then a steady speed travel of 8 seconds at 15 kmph. Then deceleration 15 to 10 in 2 seconds, right? So like this, the whole uh, cycle will go, right? Idling, acceleration, steady, deceleration, then deceleration with clutch disengaged, then idling, acceleration, gear change, acceleration, steady speed. So like this, it will include the whole working cycle of, right? So it will include the working cycle, right? Now, but over here, when it comes to electric vehicle, you can see that the electric vehicle does not have this kind of uh, setup. Like over here, as you can see, we have deceleration with clutch disengaged, or idling. You can see idling. Electric vehicle does not idle, right? Idling is relevant to IC engine. In case of electric vehicle, it is not there. So in this situation, what we do is, for idling, under when it says idling, what we'll do, we'll keep the motor at, like, we'll switch on the key, but we will not press the throttle in case of electric vehicle. So for initial 11 seconds, the vehicle will be standing there, the throttle will not be pressed, the key will be on, right? Right. Then acceleration 0 to 15 in 4 seconds. Now over here, there are two conditions that arise. One is your vehicle can do 0 to 15 in 4 seconds, right? Or you have a very small motor which cannot carry 0 to 15 in 4 seconds, but it can do 0 to 15 in 10 seconds or 16 seconds. Because these electric vehicles, if you see Ather, right? So like Ather is capable of doing 0 to 60 in uh, 5.6 seconds or something like that. That is what the acceleration of Ather is, right? So for example, if you have a smaller motor, the top speed of the vehicle is 25 kmph. So most probably that vehicle will not be able to do 0 to 15 in 4 seconds. It will take 6 seconds. So in that case, the time for this phase will be 6 seconds for your vehicle. For your vehicle, the time will be, operational time for this stage will be 6 seconds. And consecutively, the time will get add on to the next stages. And thus the time will increase for the overall cycle, right? But if your vehicle is able to follow this whole cycle exactly, so you will have a total time of 195 seconds for one cycle, right? So for so you can see over here, so this is the overall summary of the whole drive cycle, right? So breakdown by phases, you have idling of 60 seconds, right? Then idling while vehicle moving, you have 9 seconds. Gear shifting, you have 8 seconds. Like all this, the breakdown is given, right? So, but if you come to low, so you have average speed is 19 kilometers per hour, right? And the top speed is theoretical distance covered per cycle is 1 kilometer, right? 1 kilometer is the distance for one cycle. 195 seconds, average speed will be 19 kilometers per hour, and the top speed that your vehicle will attain during the cycle is 50 kmph. 50 kmph will be the top speed that your vehicle will have to attain, right? That you can see over here. Okay, so this is part one of the cycle, which is for city, right? And now if you then accordingly you have this part two, which is, so this is part two. Part two is a very shorter, there are less stages, or you can say less operations in there, but the time is more. Cumulative time is 400 seconds. I'll come down to the summary. So you can see effective running time is 400 seconds, and distance covered is 7 kilometers, because it is on highway, right? So in highway, you don't shift too much gear, or you don't change speed too much, right? Maximum speed is 90 kmph, and average speed is 59.3 kmph, right? So this is about the part two. Okay, so if I show you the graph of this cycle, just okay, right? So if you can see, this is the graph for the cycle, right? So MIDC, so this is for part two, and this is for part one. So this is, yeah, so this is part one. Idling, acceleration 15 kmph, then stable constant speed, deceleration 0, then acceleration, gear shift acceleration, all this, like, so these blank spaces are gear shift spaces, right? So all these will be there, right? So this is part one, and then this is part two, which is for highway, right? So you have the operation number written along with the graph: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, right? Very few operations, as I said, and the time is 400 seconds. And then four four parts of part one and one part of part two, this whole combined, like four part one cycle and one part two cycle will give you a complete MIDC. Okay, this gives you a complete modified Indian driving cycle, right? So right, so that means 400 for one MIDC. So part one was 195 seconds, so that means into 4 plus 400 will give you, so 1180 seconds, as shown in the x-axis below. 1180 seconds is the total time for one cycle for complete MIDC, for a complete MIDC cycle. 1180 seconds, right? And the distance travel will be 1.01 into 4 plus 6.5. 10.5 kilometers will be the distance travel in one cycle. Okay. Shiv Kumar, this is for M1, M2, and N1, right? Basically cars and light commercial vehicles, light vehicles, basically light four-wheelers. Okay. Okay, so this is what MIDC, and this is how the whole drive cycle for the vehicle is usually, right? So yeah, so this is about the MIDC. So coming back to the presentation. So we have these, and then we have Delhi driving cycle. Delhi driving cycle is for heavy buses and trucks, and this is this is in order to control the pollution in metro cities, especially Delhi. Right after the whole pollution, the situation of Delhi, so there is a special cycle developed for Delhi itself. So all the heavy buses and trucks now have to go through this cycle in order to be approved. Right. So these are the cycles that we have in India, right now. But the issue is that these cycles are not like with growing traffic and all, right? With growing traffic and expanding cities, these cycles are again have been outdated. Like first the Indian driving cycle was outdated, so modified Indian driving cycle came into the play. Now MIDC is also getting outdated. Along with that, every country and every region has their own driving cycles and clearance norms and everything, although most of them follow Euro norms, but still, right? So that is why India, Europe, and Japan have worked together to come up with WLTC. Okay, WLTC is World Light Transport Cycle. Okay, WLTC test cycle is being made, so it is under improvement right now, right? Although the implementation has started, but it is under improvement. So Europe, India, and Japan are working together to work on this cycle. So over here you have three categories of vehicle, or three categories of cycle, basically: class 1, class 2, and class 3. Class 1 is the vehicles with power to mass ratio. PMR is power to mass ratio, okay, or power to weight ratio less than equal to 22. So for the mostly for the vehicles in India which are which are cheap, quite heavy, as per the, like, the power to weight ratio is less, right? And for those vehicles we have the class 1 test cycle. Class 2 is for premium vehicles in India or the base vehicles in Europe and Japan, right? So that is class 2. And class 3, there you have like the premium vehicles, the expensive ones with high power to mass ratio more than 34 watt per kg, right? So there, if your vehicle is having speed more than 120 kmph, so it is 3B. Less than 120 kmph, it is 3A, right? So these are the classes for WLTC. So, and these are the respective graph for each class. So you have class 1 cycle. So because class 1 vehicles will not travel more than 45 or 60 kmph, they will not travel more than that. So that is why the speed limitation you can see is at 60 kmph, right? So it will consist of low cycle, medium cycle, and low cycle. This is one cycle of WLTC class 1, 1800 seconds, right? Low, medium, low. Then class 2 will consist of low, medium, high, and extra high, right? So the one cycle of each will constitute class 2. And for class 3, again, you have low, medium, high, and extra high for class 3 vehicles. And again, it is of 1800 seconds. So all the cycles are of 1800 seconds approximately. But you can see the graph or the driving pattern of each cycle is different because of the different vehicle category or the different purpose of the vehicle. No, it will not create that much of a difference. Between Indian condition and abroad, the only difference is that in standards are same. In India, the whole Indian standards are dot to dot copy of Euro norms, dot to dot copy. Not even a single word is different, except for the code name. Yeah. Okay, so this is WLTC cycles, right? Then now coming to the major part, which is regulation for EV. So these are, so one is CMVR, obviously, that you need to understand if you want, right? Then these are the set of regulations in respect to EV. Okay, so these are certain set of regulations that you need to understand with respect to EV, right? And these regulations are placed in order of how you should approach them. Initially, when I started, so like I was approaching them as per the serial number, but soon I realized that that was not the way, right? So this order arrangement is in the order of how you should approach them, right? So you have 038. So first of all, start with functional and construction safety, right? Which is 038, AIS 038. I will tell you how to get these standards and codes. But in the meantime, you can note them. You can note the numbers at least, right? So that later on you can search and go through these documents, right? So 038 is construction and functional safety, right? Then you have 049, which is CMVR type approval for electric powertrain vehicles. So what are the components and what are the approval criteria? Vehicle approval criteria. Okay, right? What are the basic vehicle approval criteria for CMVR type approvals? Okay, right? Then you have 156, the same approval criteria for L category vehicle, specific requirement for L category electric powertrain vehicles. So requirement with electrical safety and requirement for energy storage system, which is battery. So in under AIS codes and all, you will not find the word battery. Mostly it is referred as rechargeable electrical energy storage system, RESS, right? And charging stations are normally referred as energy supply equipment, ESE, right? So then you have 040, which is range measurement. It is the easiest of all the laws. So that is why I have kept it at first. You, after all these requirements, you can straight away go for measuring the range and feel good about yourself that, okay, there are some things that you can understand easily. Then 048, requirement for traction battery. So this will consist, so for those who wants to go for battery pack design and battery pack design and testing and all, so 048 is the 038 and 048 are the major documents for you. Okay, so 038 should be known by everyone, like doesn't matter in which department you are studying. If you have your own company working in this sector, or if you have a team working in this electric vehicle project, so I think 038, 049 and 156 should be known by everyone, right? That is what I believe, because that will help you in long run in terms of safety and operational safety also and everything. Right. Then you have 041 for net power and maximum 30-minute power measurement. So this is more related to the powertrain and motors actually. 123 is CMVR type approval for hybrid electric system and EV kits. So 123 is for EV kits. So if you want to retrofit IC engine vehicle to a hybrid vehicle or to an electric vehicle, so in that, what are the approval criterias that you will find under 123? 138 is AC and DC charging. And then ISO 26262 is a broad documentation for functional safety. That again, this is also something that everyone should know about. ISO 126, ISO 26262. Right. So, right. So shall I move forward to next slide? Then before going to the before showing the AIS documents or where to find them, I just wanted to mention about the IP rating. So IP rating also is also something that everyone in your team should know about, right? IP rating of whatever the electrical. So those from who are already working, who have already worked in electrical industry, or who are familiar with all these electrical equipments and all, you might already know about the ingress protection rating. But for those who don't are not familiar about this, so IP rating is the ingress protection rating, as you can see from the image. So it defines how much sealed your component is as per the different ingress. So it is usually given as IPXX. The first digit is solid protection, the second digit tells you about the water protection. So on the cable also, like on the normal cable in the household, will also have IP rating written on it. Okay. So in all the electrical equipments, they have IP rating written on it. In case of electric vehicle, motor and battery and controller, or the traction control, or the power electronics unit, these are specifically needed to be manufactured with IP67 rating. Okay. IP67 is what you want in these three. That is the regulation that you have to keep IP67 in that case. Okay. So that is what IP rating is, right? So IP67 means 6 means dust tight. So not even dust should be able to get inside. And 7 is protection against immersion between 15 centimeter and 1 meter of water for 30 minutes. Okay. Divyendu, I don't have exact idea about that. Sorry, if it is available in there or not, because I was working with some companies, so there they had provided me with the WLTC cycle, right? But I don't know if it is available in open source or not. Might be available. Yeah, it might be available. I also would have to look for it. So this is about the regulations. I will just quickly show you how to get the AIS documents. So coming back to the browser. So all the AIS documents can be obtained from the website of ARAI. Okay. So if you go to ARAI website, so over here you go to certification standardization. And this, if you go to standardization and AIS, right? So you will get to a page like this, right? Where on the top you can write the title of the document, like keywords, and you can get the relevant documents, or you can write the code. If you know the code, you can directly put the code. So for example, if I put 041 and search, so I can find 041 battery operated vehicle, measurement of net power and maximum 30 minutes power and speed, and 041 revision 1 electric powertrain vehicle, measurement of net power and maximum 30 minute power. So that is why I mentioned you about battery operated vehicle and electric powertrain vehicle, right? So while you are searching for codes, you might for several codes, you will find this type of distinguishing: battery operated vehicle and electric powertrain vehicle. So depending upon the type of vehicle that you are working on, you can download the relevant document and you can study. So if you download this, so this is how this document will be, right? So if we come down, so you can see scope, definition, test condition. Now, one of the major thing that you need to note is that these documents will consist of a lot of references. Okay, so once you start studying one document, you won't be stopped at that. So for example, if you see over here, if power supply is from RESS of the vehicle, it should be charged according to the normal charge procedure for a period not exceeding 12 hours as per recommendation. Refer AIS 0393521, right? So now, so before understanding this law, you have to go to this document and refer to this para in order to understand what they are trying to say over here, right? So all these things that so basically these documents will consist of lot of references to other documents. Okay, so but once you start studying, like, you might be able to understand them all, right? Okay, so yeah, so with this, that is all. If you have any questions. If you have any questions, till then I will be keeping this slide so that you can note down the numbers if you haven't. Any questions? Anything?
Participants, if you have any questions, ask immediately.
I believe there is no question. I think that. So yes, sir. I think there's. Is there any threat? Is there any threat to electric vehicle? Chaturvedula, can you elaborate your question? I could not get what you are trying to ask. Sorry.
Like I think the competition in other
So your voice is low.
electric vehicle, instead of battery operated electric vehicle,
Mhm.
is there any technology that is going to overtake this? Like
Again.
fuel cells, like fuel cell.
Okay, again, like your voice is too low. I'm unable to get the complete question. Sorry. Can you type it in the box itself? Maybe from there I can take that question. What is difference between drone dynamics and EV dynamics? That I won't be able to give you a clear idea about that because again, I haven't worked on drone as much. So yeah. So I won't be able to give you a clear distinction between them, apart from the fact that one is flying and one is on the road. Sorry, I could not give you due to cyber security issues. Okay. So yeah, so that is again okay. Yeah, so that can be there because electric vehicles are mostly working on the control systems and everything is connected. Like one of the major thing that has happened by coming of electric vehicle is like the industry is more towards the everything is connected, like the connected vehicle thing, right? Or the smart vehicle as we say. So yeah, so that again ends up on the manufacturer's end, because usually if BMW is providing, for example, BMW is providing an electric vehicle or Tesla is providing their electric vehicle, so the firmware or the software, basically the software responsible to control everything and the whole connected vehicle thing and everything, right? So that is being provided by the Tesla itself, right? So they would have to keep a very good security gate so that like they won't be hacked easily, because if someone does that, so like it makes easy for if you are able to hack that, then it makes easy for you to take control of any vehicle at any given point of time, right? So that is there. Yeah. So yeah, there is a threat. Yes, there is a threat in terms of cybersecurity. Devendra, yes, I will be sharing the PPT to the organizers, and from them, I think you can take. There's no charging stable option and no trade also if the entire battery backup. Okay. So, Dr. Anthony, actually, that is what I meant when I said that the charging infra, like in India, in case of India, the major issue or the major challenges of charging infra, not only in India, around the globe, the major challenge is charging infra. Although there are few companies like BMW i3 who are providing an option of range extender. Okay, so where you can you can pay somewhat extra to have an engine, have a 1.3 liter 2-cylinder engine installed in your car at the back along with the motor, and beside the motor basically, and because it is small engine, so it can, both of them can fit together in one space. And when your battery is about to go down, so you can use that engine to recharge the battery pack. So BMW is providing that functionality. But apart from that, yes, this is one of the major challenges, and that is why the EV is taking time to get settled in any corner of the world. Like everywhere, it is not a challenge only in India. Everywhere, this is the major challenge. Like if the battery goes out in a remote location, so what will happen and how will we be able to start it? Yeah. Sir, actually, yes, I will share. Yeah, so actually, yesterday night the power went off in my area. As I said, in Delhi NCR, the continuous load shedding is going on. Somehow, since the morning, it has not went out. That I'm thankful for, right? So, sure, I'll be sharing the PPT. Yeah, I'll be sharing the PPT just after this. Yeah. Mm, thank you, sir. Thank you for this. Yeah. So, any
Shall we
other
conclude?
questions? Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think we can conclude. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon, all of the participants. It is privilege and great joy for me to extend the vote of thanks for this 14th session of day 5. On behalf of the members and Department of Mechanical Engineering, Francis Xavier Engineering College, and all the participants, I would like to thank Mr. Ranak Chaudhary, Senior Design Engineer, ISIE, Ghaziabad, Uttar Pradesh, for your valuable and informative presentation and clarification on the topics. Thank you so much, sir, for spending time for enrich our knowledge. Thank you so much for all the participants for your effective feedback and interaction. Thank you. Feedback link has been shared in the chat box and also will be shared in the WhatsApp group. Our valedictory functions will start at 2:30 p.m. Once again, I will read the agenda. Feedback by participants 2:30 p.m. to 2:55 p.m. Vote of thanks 2:55 p.m. to 3 p.m. Official Facebook entry in Atal web portal 3 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Online test, that is MCQ test, 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. So we will meet again at 2:30 p.m. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.